welcome everyone to the People's House.
Mr. Speaker, will you please call the House to order?
The bill is passed.
This bill says that New York understands the breadth and the depth of the problem.
Hello, welcome to another edition of Assembly Update. I'm Assemblyman Tom Abinanti, and with me today is a gentleman named Terence Zaleski, better known in Westchester area either as Assemblyman Terry or Mayor Terry Zaleski.
How about that?
There was a time when you were sitting over here asking the questions, right?
Well, sort of, but you know, you'd be surprised. A lot of times it seemed to be the other way around too.
And then you were mayor of the city of Yonkers, the great city of Yonkers.
That's right, absolutely.
And since then, you've proven that there is life after elective office.
Yes, I certainly am a testament to that and proof of that, and quite frankly, yeah, it's been a good several years thereafter.
Now, you're an attorney.
Yes, I am.
And as I'm understanding, you've used your skills as an attorney mostly in the area of helping people, special people with special needs.
That's correct.
And I was very pleased to see you again. It's been a long time since we've seen each other, but I was pleased to see you up here in Albany representing a school in the Westchester area.
That's correct.
And it's called Green Chimneys?
Green Chimneys.
What is Green Chimneys?
Green Chimneys is a very special and wonderful school. It traces its reputation back over 67 years, and it is a school for young people that have various emotional disturbances, learning challenges, special needs of one type or another. And what Green Chimneys pioneered, starting 67 years back, was a special type of animal-assisted and nature-based therapeutic intervention process to help these young people come to grips with the needs that they have in their life. And it's a wonderful, wonderful program. It was pioneered by the efforts of its founder, Sam Ross, and his wife, Myra Ross. And folks come from all around the world to emulate what they have at Green Chimneys. It's one of the best kept secrets in New York State, quite frankly, because of what it does.
That's why we have this beautiful calendar that has all these lovely kids with different animals.
Oh, that's correct. This is the annual Green Chimneys calendar that features some of the therapeutic agents on campus. As you can see, right on the front here, you know, we've got a camel. There are two camels that came to the campus about a year ago. We've got dogs. We've got domesticated animals. We've got wildlife animals.
You want to hold this up so everybody can see Blue?
Oh, sure. I mean, Blue, a wonderful, wonderful dog over here. Barred owls. I mean, we've got Phoenix and Sage. You know, the llamas. I mean, we've got wonderful animals that young people can learn from, can experience, can touch, can feel. We've got organic gardens that they can, you know, get their hands dirty in. And, you know, it's really interesting that young people, and quite frankly, people of any age, really have a special, unique connection with nature. It can be a healing connection. If someone's coming to the campus and has had problems, family circumstances, what have you, many times this animal-assisted therapy just is magical.
I can relate to that. I have a son with autism, and he likes to ride horses. And it's an amazing experience for him. It calms him down. It seems to focus him in. And I've heard of so many other kids with these disabilities who respond to, they're dogs now, they're companion dogs that serve the dual purpose of keeping kids safe as well as calming them down and giving them focus. So if they start to wander, the dog will help bring the kid back. But we're talking about the sizzle, not the steak. That's the, right? Green Chimneys has a very good reputation. And why are you up here, though? Why are you in Albany? You didn't come just to distribute calendars.
No, not just to distribute calendars or to say hello to former colleagues from years ago. I came here because Green Chimneys, like other private special needs schools, is in need of special assistance. Because for many, many years, the way the state budget was prepared, we know that in 2007, 2008, the economy, really hit rock bottom. During those years when the budgets were prepared, these schools began receiving an absolute zero increase in any type of assistance from the state. That assistance has stayed at that level. No additional increase in the rate of funding for 4 consecutive years. We have schools now that are trying to meet today's needs based on funding streams that are 4 years old, plus their rate methodology at the State Education Department, which helps fund these programs, actually goes on a 2-year retro cycle. So we're actually talking about a system where we've got rates that are 6 years old in some cases, and trying to meet current needs with staff and other
Unfortunately,
requirements.
this is a problem we're seeing throughout the disability community. It seems to be the forgotten area. As I look at this year's budget, I'm seeing a freeze on wages for people who care for the very vulnerable, people with severe disabilities. They haven't had a raise in 4 years, 5 years, and this budget proposes the same thing. Our regular school districts are still not back to the 2007 and 2008 levels. We've been able to get them some additional monies, but what you're referring to is even worse, because, as you said, you're still getting rate reimbursement that's based on the standard of living 6 years ago.
That's correct.
And nobody would claim that you were overfunded 6 years ago.
That's
either.
correct.
You know, the public doesn't understand that when we talk about a rate, we talk about funding and rates. As I understand it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong with this, is that when a child is placed in a school like this, a special school like this, the home school district will pay, let's say, Green Chimneys or any one of these other special schools. We have the School for the Deaf in Greenberg. You have a school for the blind elsewhere. So the home school district will place the child there because they've made the determination that they just can't meet the needs of that child. And I've heard from some of the school districts, they're very concerned about the financial health of schools like Green Chimney, because if they had to gear up to meet the needs of these children, they could never afford to do it. And so while it may look expensive to place a child in a place like, it's a bargain compared to what it would cost to educate the child.
Absolutely. No, it's extremely cost effective to have these types of programs available, and there aren't too many of them. The children that have these types of special needs have not been decreasing over time. If anything, the number of children that need some specialized services has been increasing. And during that same period, for there to be the same, and in some cases even greater limitations on the service, is really very tragic, because we have an obligation to serve the needs of this population. The federal government recognizes that. They say these children are entitled to this type of specialized education. The school districts recognize also that if they were to provide this type of service at the local school district level, the impact on the local taxpayer would be just phenomenal.
Right. What about the results? How did the results come out of Green Chimneys?
Well, what's really amazing is to see the young people that come through a program like Green Chimneys and whose lives are turned around, totally turned around by the special type of care that they receive, the special attention to the program that's there. The students come to Green Chimneys with an educational plan that is devised through the school district. Okay, the basic individual education plan, the IEP plan. And Green Chimneys' responsibility as a school is to implement that plan and to make sure that each of the children, meet the objectives in there. And on top of that, to incorporate as part of the therapeutic regimen the nature-based and animal-assisted therapy component, the animal-assisted and nature-based activity program. And it's through that combination of the ABCs plus the animals and the plants and what have you, that the young people's lives are able to be turned around.
One of the hardest parts of dealing with these children is trying to find something that's going to engage them, something that's going to relax them, something that's going to make them feel comfortable, and something that's going to engage their interest. And the use of animals is a very interesting technique. As I said, we're starting to see it in other areas where you have companion dogs and you have horseback riding programs and things like that. but it's fascinating that this has been incorporated into a program, and I could see how this would help a lot of kids who seem to deal better with animals than they do with other people, and little by little as they progress, you've got to break through somehow.
Right.
Once you break through and reach these kids, now you can work with them, now you can educate them, and in many cases you can make these kids not a burden on society, but rather an asset. They're people with differing abilities.
These could be life-changing programs, and in many cases are life-changing programs, and not just here in New York, but as I mentioned at the outset, Green Chimneys, 67 years providing these services. Well, we're not keeping the light under the bushel basket either. Folks come from all over the world to look at what Green Chimneys does, because it is such a model for incorporating animal-assisted, nature-based therapy into this type of special needs regimen. And so they come from all over the United States, but they also come from around the world. They've been here from Israel, from Russia, from China, Japan, to study what they do, and then to bring it back.
You're an excellent spokesperson for Green Chimneys and for this type of education. How did you ever get involved in this?
Well, years back, after I served my term about that as mayor of the city of Yonkers, and moved on from there, I began saying, well, how do I go about developing the rest of my life? What types of things do I want to do? What types of things can I do and do I feel comfortable with? And at that time, one of the organizations that I became involved with was the ASPCA, and assisting them in some of their needs here in Albany at that time. And I was also assisting other entities as well. Through that, I was introduced to Green Chimneys School and Children's Services. And
from there, now you work with ARC?
From there, I work with Putnam ARC, the ARC, yeah, for those with developmental disabilities. And also I work with a group of providers of specialized training for welfare to work transitioning.
So you're seeing the forgotten people at this time. I mean, as we're looking at this current budget, what I would call these are the forgotten people. What do we do? How do we get more? How do we help Green Chimneys? How do we help all of these other organizations and good people help the most vulnerable in our community?
Well, I think there always needs to be a recognition that programs, like Green Chimneys, like the ARCs, like those which serve developmental disabilities, should not just be out there trying to do their own advocacy. I think society as a whole needs to embrace the special needs of all of its members and to recognize that. And then advocacy needs to come in a more general sphere, if you will, by folks in the general public saying, we have an obligation to those of us who are not as fortunate as we. We have an obligation to those who need specialized training. We have an obligation to young people that need a special situation like Green Chimneys. There needs to be a recognition in society. How does one go about building that recognition? We're talking about trying to build a selflessness. Very frankly, it'd be very nice if folks simply got on the phone and contacted their legislators and others in power and made that
louder.
point.
We have
Absolutely.
to make your voice louder. We have to bring everybody together and understand that our community works best when everyone works together.
That's absolutely that's the final answer.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for enlightening all of us. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I think you're doing an excellent job for a very good cause.
Well, that's my pleasure, and I can say the same thing. Keep up the good work as well.
Thank you all for coming and watching another edition of Assembly Update. I'm Assemblyman Tom Abinanti. If we can be helpful to you, please don't hesitate to contact my office.